The air was crisp, bringing with it a certain fresh vitality that only an early autumn morning could offer. Sunlight whispered through the lace curtains, dappled patterns spread across a quaint bedroom that smelled faintly of cinnamon and old books. Milly, in her polka-dot pajamas and woolen socks, awoke to the sweet symphony of songbirds outside her window. Rubbing her pale green eyes, she pushed back the heavy blankets and swung her feet over the side of the antique bed. She shuffled past her beautiful navy and cream open wardrobe, moving toward the window and parting slightly the billowing curtain. There, beyond the cobblestone path and clusters of marigold, lay her new backyard, a wide expanse adorned with all the colors of the autumn palette. A sort of magic dwelled in this new place, a whispered secret that flickered on the wind and rustled in the leaves. Milly's brown curls bobbed as she nodded in silent agreement with her own thought. Indeed, the world outside was eager to share its story. Adjusting her thick knitted cardigan over her shoulders, Milly dared to take the first step onto the cold, dew-licked grass. Her woolen socks soaked up the snippet of moisture from the ground, each blade of grass a gentle caress against her toes. With a soft sigh that mingled with the wind, she moved forward, drawn to an ancient maple tree that stood gracefully at the far end of the yard. The tree was a majestic spectacle, its twisted branches stretching high above into the cerulean sky, clothed in vibrant leaves. The foliage, dressed in hues of caramel, apricot, and ruby, swayed gently, their rustling whispers murmuring secrets of centuries past. Swinging from one hefty branch, a solitary swing hung, its faded wooden seat telling tales of laughter, joy, and timeless innocence. Milly approached the swing, an airy lightness dancing in her heart. She could almost sense the subtle enchantment that emanated from the age-worn maple tree and its companion swing. As if reaching out to an old friend, Milly gently brushed the roughened, time-worn seat, feeling the pulse of the tale begging to be told. "You hold stories," she breathed softly, her voice barely more than a whisper spoken to the autumn wind. Turning to examine this silent witness of countless seasons, she marveled at the fragments of moss and lichen decorating the splintery bark. It was a tapestry of time, each contour recounting a treasure of both history and mystery. She brushed her fingers over the gnarled roots, rounding like ancient serpents rising from the earth. Sitting herself on the cold, unoccupied seat, she let the swing sway to and fro in a rhythmic, lulling motion. The world fell into a harmonious quietude, the rustling leaves singing a lullaby of ages, and the fleeting flutters of a butterfly danced on the soft morning light that filtered through the immense branches. Milly closed her eyes, her heart welling with peaceful tranquility. The swing, the tree, the surrounding symphony of nature all danced together in this serene ballet of life and history. Their invisible threads of life and energy enfolded around her, as if welcoming her into their waltz. "I am part of the song now," she whispered, and as her voice dwindled into the morning breeze, she felt the old maple tree tremble in agreement. "Yes, you are, Milly. Yes, you are." Underneath the wise, ancient gaze of the maple tree, the song of the autumn leaves ebbed and flowed around her. Milly, a kind-hearted and endearing soul, succumbed to the quiet enchantment of this peaceful haven. It was not just the first day in her new home. It felt like the first day of something magical, something more substantial, that might unfold itself with the coming of each day's dawn. Her eyes fluttered open, the vibrant light dancing in her sparkling irises. The world was brimming with life and harmony just outside her window, in her very own backyard. A smile spread across her face, the radiance beating the golden hues of the morning sun. Embraced by the charm of her new find, she whispered her quiet promise to the whimsical autumn air. "We'll discover your song together, dear tree. It'll be our shared secret." And with that, she climbed up from the swing, casting one last affectionate gaze at the ancient maple tree. She was both in her new home and very much a part of this splendid concert of autumn. And as she walked back to the warmth of her house, she could still hear the faint rustling of the leaves singing their timeless song. Whether it was the whisper of the autumn wind, the rustling leaves, or the sway of the solitary swing, Milly was not alone in her new home. The enchantment held by this ancient maple tree was her companion. A sweet, melodic serenade was her welcome song. And so, with the joy of countless tomorrows yet to be discovered, she stepped inside, leaving the magic of the autumn day to play its soft, soothing tune. The song of the autumn leaves lilted on, its melody carrying her into another comforting chapter of her life. Yes, Milly thought, this was indeed a good beginning. In the hushed calm of mid-afternoon, Milly quietly ambled through familiar paths, her small feet navigating the carpet of amber and fiery red leaves that laced the woodland floor. Gentle branches danced overhead, rustling their grand autumn coats in whispers of the season's change. Milly's progress was slow, her senses reaching out to each rustling leaf, each whispering breeze, each drop of sunlight piercing through the canopy, painting dapples of light onto her path. In the heart of the woodland stood a proud maple, draped in an array of red and orange hues so vivid they could fluster a sunset. A worn wooden swing gripped tightly to one of its sturdy arms, bobbing lightly as the wind stirred the peaceful scene. Milly approached the tree, her eyes tracing the sinuous path of the swing's ropes as they disappeared into the scarlet canopy above. On this day, though, something was different. Milly noticed a slight bulge in a crevice of the tree's textured bark. Gingerly she reached out, her fingers making contact with the somewhat crisp edges of an old wedged letter. Her heart fluttered slightly, the way hearts do when they sense a story waiting to be told, a secret begging to be shared. The paper crackled under her gentle touch as she tugged the letter free, held captive no more by its arboreal sentinel. The handwriting wavered and danced across the yellowed parchment. She took in every word, every stroke of the aging ink, like the rhythmic hum of the woodland around her. It pulled her into its resonating tale, a tale of two hearts that once found solace in the whispered shadows under the flaming arms of the aged maple, swaying eternally on the old wooden swing. With each progressing line, Milly could almost hear the quiet laughter echo through years past, the warmth of their shared hopes and dreams tinging the air with a soft poignancy. Their intimate moments, encapsulated between these fragile folds of time, manifested as poignant echoes of a camaraderie that was, but no longer is. A breeze stirred, seeming to gather the spectral sounds and colours of this everlasting autumn. The leaves in the canopy rustled, their song resonating deeper now, like the notes of an old forgotten melody replaying its nostalgic tune. The maple tree seemed to sway in time with this song, its branches oscillating in a silent dance that whispered tales of old companionships, of lost moments, and echoes of laughter. Milly traced the swing's worn rope, its rugged texture imprinted with the tales it wished to share. She could hear the faint whispering sighs of lovers in limbo, the silent warm melodies of their shared stories reverberating through the forest. A quiet longing stirred within her, deeper than she had ever felt, akin to an ember nurtured in the rightful embrace of the cool evening breeze. Milly found herself yearning for a bond like the ones this letter confessed, a bond fostered under the wise old maple, strengthened by giggles shared on the quiet swing, and sealed by nature's humble, unwavering presence. She gently refolded the letter, an unspoken reverence in her movements. Placing it back into the tree's comforting embrace, she murmured a silent promise to the enduring maple, a promise to return, to listen to the whispers of the wind, the rustling echoes of the autumn leaves, the hush of the coming winter, and the budding laughter of spring. For now, the woodland hummed its symphony, echoing the rhythm of stories held close by the maple tree. Milly sat down beneath the tree, the swing seeming to sway in tune with her heartbeat. As she closed her eyes, the rustling of the autumn leaves above became the song to which her dreams would dance, painting a comforting lullaby for the impending night. Her longing remained, held close to her heart, sweet and poignant as the crisp air around her. And in that moment, under the protective shade of the old maple tree, lulled by the song of the autumn leaves, Milly found her own quiet corner in the world, woven by a shared past and a hopeful longing for shared companionships yet to come. As Milly drifted into slumber, the letter in the tree trunk whispered its secrets to the winds above, the swing quietly bobbing to its rhythm. Above them all, the maple tree stood, solemn, majestic, a silent keeper of stories that had been, and those that were yet to be written in the fresh scrolls of time. Milly clutched the worn letter in her hand, her heart throbbing gently with newfound determination. Today was the day she would ride the old wooden swing hanging from the leaf-encrusted oak. A silent giant that quietly witnessed the passing of seasons, aptly named Autumn's Watcher. Pulling her woolen shawl closer around her narrow shoulders, she tiptoed out into the crisp autumn morning. The world was donned in a cloak of russet, gold and orange, punctuated only by the resilient green of the evergreens standing sentinel around the edges of her tiny garden. Her heart fluttered like a nestling preparing for its first flight. Gathering her courage, she approached the swing. Its once vibrant turquoise paint, worn and chipped away by countless winters, now bore more of the oak's wooden hue. She could even trace the faint blue-green of its youth in little patches around the rusted chain links. Standing before the swing, she hesitated, then firmly placed her fragile, veined hands on the chilled wooden seat. Drawing in a deep breath of the earthy autumn air, she curated strength, pulled the swing back, and carefully took her seat. With a gentle push against the brown leaf-carpeted earth, she set the swing into motion. At first, the old oak groaned under her weight, struggling to recall the rhythm of the swing. Then, as the rhythm picked up, a comforting creak provided a steady, enchanting pulse. As she ascended, she cast her gaze upon the gorgeous landscape unfolding around her. Each heave allowed her to steal glimpses of the golden expanse, and each descent submerged her into the subdued, rustling lullaby of the gentle giant's many arms, clasping countless dry leaves. Nervousness gradually melted into serenity in this oscillation. Milly's heart began to open to the world around her. At the peak of each sway, her heart absorbed the charm of the landscape like a painter committing to memory the nuance of a scene. At the bottom of each swing, it beat in rhythm with the rustling leaves. A delicate magic then began to unfurl. The rustling of the leaves started to chime in harmony with the creaking swing. The resulting melody, slow and rising, seemed to echo from the forgotten depths of the past. Each note played by the wind in the leaves and the old wooden swing resonated a tale from the bygone days, lullabies sung by mothers, laughter shared between friends, promises made under the glow of infinite stars, or the hushed whispers of sweet nothings. It was as if the autumn leaves were the maestros of a grand orchestra, serenading her with stories that the wind had listened to in its many journeys around the world. Milly closed her tire's eyes and let the symphony of nature consume her. She took in the sweet mellifluous harmony, the comforting timbre of the wind, and the soft rustle of the leaves. Opening her heart wider, she embraced the unfamiliar. She even dared to join in, her heart matching the rhythm set by the swing and the wind. As she did, the music revealed its nuances, layers of harmonies, melodies, and undercurrents of rhythms she hadn't perceived initially. For hours it seemed that she swung, cocooned in this magical orchestration, sublimely detached from the passage of time. Her heart was blooming like a desert flower receiving the first rain of the season, so exquisitely unfamiliar, yet vulnerable in its acceptance of this magical music. When finally the light began to wane and the sun prepared to pass its crown to the moon, Milly reluctantly allowed the swing's momentum to dwindle until the creaking of the chains came to a halt. The leaves too quieted, their music fading, leaving a residue of warmth in Milly's heart. She sat there for a moment longer, committing the day's quiet symphony and the rustle of the leaves to memory. Stepping off the swing, she left behind a piece of her heart with the autumn watcher, promising to return the next day to share another melody with her newfound companions, the swing and the whispering autumn leaves. As the chill of the night seeped into the landscape, a soft wind whispered to the leaves of the old oak tree, and amidst the rustle, a hum floated, a tune imprinted in the very soul of autumn's watcher. the forgotten songs of the autumn leaves echoing once more through the quiet, descending night. Chapter 4. The October air was beginning to feel cool against Millie's skin, as long, languid tendrils of breeze stirred the red, orange, and muted golds of the autumn leaves that lay scattered around her. The melodious rustling of their drying echoes, carried on these seasonal gusts, did more than simply quicken her pulse with the whispering excitement of change. They sang a song unheard by most, a soothing, reassuring musical rhapsody that stirred the depths of Millie's memory with its peaceful cadence. Millie closed her eyes, welcoming each whispered chorus brought forth by the October wind, with a gentle smile. She could almost visualize the autumn leaves spinning and twirling in a dazzling dance of colors, their song blending harmoniously with the wistful tune of the cornfield reeds nearby. The combined melodies serenaded Millie into a state of soft tranquility until, woven into the music, a certain melody brought her a sense of familiarity that beckoned her to spring open the shutters of her past. Tucked away deep inside the folds of Millie's heart-buried, but never-forgotten lives, a treasure of memories. The melody of the autumn leaves didn't merely remind Millie of her past, it guided her back to the unplucked lace of her childhood, steered her into the winding path of her grandmother's apricot orchard, a place that held the joy of her earliest giggles and cushioned her most achingly somber tears. With each note, Millie was there again, skipping merrily along the sun-soaked russet paths between the rows of apricot trees. She pictured herself in her favorite gingham dress, the hem dirtied from exploring the terrain, the brim of her straw hat casting a protective shade over her cherubic face. She could almost taste the lusciously ripe apricots that an elder Millie would willingly trade an entire day's worth of city life to savor again. Gems of the sunlight would peek in through the tangled branches, illuminating the verdant canvas of the orchard's undergrowth and bathing the ground with twinkling golden hues. The atmosphere would be thick with the scent of sun-ripened fruit, earth, and something untamed, the wild notes of the wilderness that the orchard had tamed just enough. Her grandmother would be there as well, watching over young Millie from the porch. Her gentle hands would be at work, crafting something beautiful from the wool she always held or the threads she so dexterously maneuvered. There was always the echo of her grandmother's laughter as it blended with the rhythm of the leaves' song, making the orchard come alive with its soothing vibrations. Each memory beautifully pressed like flowers within the yellowing pages of an antique book, unfolded with the autumn leaves melody, soothing but painful in its bitter sweetness. Millie cherished them as a traveler cherishes their worn-out map. They were the threads that wove the quilt of her roots, of the resting place she would always return to, no matter how long and twisted the journey. She sighed, opening her eyes to the autumn-kissed present. The song of the autumn leaves had unburdened Millie's heart, smoke and incense to her personal nostalgia altar. She could now feel the innate peace that always found her when she listened to the rustling autumn chorus, the familiar tune that stirred her heart and echoed deep within her soul. Yes, there was a stark contrast between the simplicity of her past and the busyness of the present, but even amid the clamor of city life, there was an enchanting tranquility to be found. It was the soothing whisper of the wind, the song of the autumn leaves, the medley of nature that could capture anyone's heart and remind them of beautiful, even if long-buried, memories. Millie embraced the cool, melancholic beauty of autumn, and with it, each irreplaceable memory it invoked. She welcomed the peaceful solitude, the poignant melody of the seasonal orchestra, for they bound her to the past. They led her back home, back to her grandmother's apricot orchard. As the day ended, Millie retreated inside to the comforting warmth of her home, carrying with her the cooling touch of the October air and the soothing song of the autumn leaves. The memory quilt was carefully folded back, tucked away for another reminiscent day. Resting in her favorite armchair, Millie acknowledged one last time the symphony of the past that had risen with the autumn song, echoing peacefully in her heart. With that, she bade the music adieu, ready to welcome the encompassing silence of a well-earned night. The world outside her window was bathed in the ethereal charm of the moonlight, while inside, Milly warmed her soul with the familiar music embraced by her heart, the never-ending, ever-soothing song of the autumn leaves. Milly slipped her worn, comfortable moccasins onto bare feet, cradling a steaming cup of sweet chamomile tea in her hands. The cool autumn air permeated the room through the slightly ajar window, carrying with it the familiar rustle of russet and amber leaves dancing in the breeze. It was these whispering leaves that her heart echoed most, their silent song a comforting lullaby of old and new, memory and present. She fondly remembered the old oak tree that stood resolute outside her childhood home, its stately branches stretching skywards, a safe haven owl she once danced beneath and whispered secrets to. On this quiet autumnal evening, its colourful leaves were beginning to retreat, leaving behind bare branches silhouetted against the twilight sky. She watched them, their silent falling stirring a nameless emotion within her, an instinctive bond between two beating hearts. A sigh escaped her lips, airy and soft as the phantom touch of the past. Perhaps it was the tranquility of the evening, or the tender pull of nostalgia that led Milly to the door, beckoning her to step outside into the dying sunlight. She left her lukewarm tea on the windowsill, followed the trail of her memories through the old wooden gate, across the yard, and there she stopped, under the old oak tree's shadow. There was some inexplicable magic in standing under the tree, feeling the soft rustle of the leaves dancing gently overhead. Milly stretched her hand upwards, catching a few falling leaves, their crumpled bodies fragile, but still holding the scent of earth and age. It was an exchange, silent and comforting, filled with a hidden language only they understood. As she ran her fingers over their textured surfaces, memories began to bloom, like bright wildflowers sprouting amidst the fallen leaves, each one more vivid than the last. Evenings spent nestled in the leafy cradle of its branches, laughter ringing into the warm summer air, whispered conversations shared with the wise, listening tree, all came rushing back in a heartwarming tidal wave of recollection. Suddenly, she wasn't just an elderly woman reminiscing her childhood, but a young girl full of spirit and dreams. Her reality began to sway rhythmically between the now and then, just like the swaying branches of the oak, caught between the whispers of the wind and the songs of the autumn leaves. Under the patient branches of the towering oak, Milly began to converse about the changing seasons and how they felt like poetic reminders of time's relentless march, about the radiant sunflowers that used to bloom in their yard every summer, their short-lived sunshine now replaced by the autumn's melancholic beauty. She shared the tales of her heartache, the triumphs, and the quiet happiness that only old age bestows. The tree, in its silent wisdom, seemed to listen, its branches swaying gently in the cool breeze as though nodding in understanding. Milly thought she heard a soothing hum, like an old lullaby whispered down through the years. It came from the tree, resonating in its hollow trunk, rustling through its dwindling leaves, a silent lullaby for the quiet autumn evening. Her heart echoed the hum, beating in rhythm with the tree's song. When the sun had fully set, painting the sky with hues of twilight, Milly rose from her place under the tree, the earth beneath imprinted with the weight of her nostalgia. She brushed her fingers lightly against the rough bark, tracing the many heart-shaped etchings of her childhood, their edges softened by the gentle touch of time. Then, with a final sigh, she whispered a soft goodbye into the quiet twilight. As she walked back to the house, the moon was painting shadows on the ground, and a lullaby of crickets was starting to echo the night song. But the music that filled her ears was that of the silent tree, its autumn song now etched in her heart. With a soft smile playing on her weathered lips, she again took her place by the windowsill, her fingers wrapped around the warm cup of mint tea this time, and an entire symphony of the silent song echoing softly in her heart. Overwhelmed by nostalgia, yet comforted by nature's silent song, Milly found solace in her silent tree companion. Here, under the symphony of the autumn leaves, she found a peace that swayed rhythmically between her vivid memories and present contentment, like a comforting song whispering on the winds of her twilight years. Chapter 6. As the sun lazily stretched its golden beams across the dappled hills, the tendrils of morning fog curled away, surrendering themselves to the newfound day. Milly stirred from her slumber, blinked her soft hazel eyes open, and met the world anew. In the quiet of the early day, an almost imperceptible whisper toyed at the edge of her consciousness. It was soft, soothing, an old familiar melody that found its home in her very soul. It was the whisper of the autumn wind, weaving stories through the russet-coloured leaves of the ancient maple tree that stood sentinel near Milly's home. As the day crawled leisurely past morning and the world slipped into a state of delicious tranquility, the front gate creaked open. Algy, Oscar, and Tabby, Milly's longtime friends, stepped through with smiles that crinkled their eyes and wrinkled their tender hearts with unmistakable warmth. They were lured by the whispers carried on the autumn wind, whispers that sang familiar tunes and spun tales that threaded through their shared past. Drawing them in, the ancient maple stood tall and inviting, like a totem of their shared history. Its creviced bark held stories etched through time, and its leaves a symphony of colours, red, yellow, orange fluttered in the cool breeze, each one a note in the autumn song. Algy, the oldest amongst them, with his silver-tipped cane and rumpled tweed cap, was the first to break the silence. "Doesn't it remind you," he began, his eyes twinkling with nostalgia, "of the times we played under its broad umbrella, hidden away from the rest of the world?" Oscar, whose laugh lines had deepened into grooves, smiled in agreement. "Indeed, every leaf seemed a secret shared solely amongst us. The tree heard our dreams, our fears, and comforted us through it all." Tabby, ever so calm with her lived-in eyes, added, "I remember how the world seemed grander sitting atop its sturdy branches. The seasons would change, but its essence remained. Much like us, isn't it?" Their words hung in the air like precious fragments of a beloved melody long forgotten, stirring together a delicately distilled sense of belonging. With every chuckle, every memory recalled, the ancient tree lent its ear, its leaves rustling in affirmation. It was privy to their past and continued to be a part of their present. In response to the hidden invitations that floated in the air around them, they found themselves settling under the maple tree. The world felt smaller, a cocoon formed of sun-warmed leaves and gentle whispers. They had not come to reminisce about their times past, but to relive the feelings the good old tree brought of togetherness, of camaraderie, of peace. And thus they did, under the sprawling canopy of the ancient maple, their old eyes mirroring its vibrant hues of gold and scarlet. The fragrance of the earth enveloped them, carrying a sweet melancholy, a kindred longing of the impending farewell of another autumn season. As the day wore on, they shared tales of yesteryears, of childhood homes, shared secrets, and how the tree had woven its magic into their lives. Shared laughter echoed amongst the ripe orange pumpkins scattered on the undergrowth. As their shadows mingled beneath the lofty branches of the mighty maple, the reunion bred a tender tapestry of new memories. It was not just a day spent amongst friends, but amongst the whispers of the familiar autumn winds that garnished the air with pregnant pauses and the heartfelt warmth that grew amidst them. The day slowly began to lose its golden hues. It folded itself into the arms of dusk, carrying with it the lingering sweetness of their laughter, their shared snores, and their whispers for the wind to carry away. As the gentle pinks of twilight painted the sky, Milly's friends bid their tender goodbyes, the old maple standing silently, a stalwart friend true through the passing seasons. Their day of reunion under the maple tree was more than a visit. It was a rendezvous with past, a date with lifelong friends, and an esoteric dialogue with the sturdy maple. Stories of old and new had spun their charm, and amongst them all, the whispers of the autumn wind continued their song, singing the tales of that day to the star-dusted night, creating a musical testimony of a reunion both time-honored and tender. The moon took to its throne as the stars gleamed in the inked sky, their twinkles echoing the day's worth of happiness shared. The old maple tree, rich with tales and memories, kept watch, its leaves rustling a soft lullaby as Milly nestled back into her cozy abode. A heart fuller than when she woke. Sleep came easily in the comfort of the whispers of the wind, whispers that flowed through her dreams, creating a slideshow of love, connection, and the timeless beauty of the rust-colored autumn leaves. The melody once again found its way to her soul, bringing a tranquil end to yet another golden autumn day. It was a day well lived, steeped in the melody of the autumn wind and the comfort embedded in the memories of old and new. Indeed, comma. Every leaf holds a story, every rustle a song, every beat of the heart imprinted on the tapestry of life. This was the symphony that autumn sang, and the ancient maple whispered. It was the song of the autumn leaves, the melody of love, longing, laughter, and life. A tune timeless, a tune treasured, a tune tender to the ear, to the soul. One that sings not just of the past, but resonates in the harmonious echo of today and hopeful tomorrow. Thus the day retired with the whispering wind, promising another dawn adorned with the sun's gentle kiss, the rustling song of the autumn leaves, and the heart's echo of memories, imprinting a lullaby into the soul of the night. The faint scent of leaf mold lingered in the air, a heartening hint of autumn's passing in the quintessential cycle of change. Ruby red and amber leaves, exquisite in their dissolution, dappled the forest floor, carried away in the arms of Zephyrus, the west wind. Now, the last whispers of autumn had seeped from the hollows of the trees, their bare branches reaching into a crisp cerulean sky, a stark contrast to the once bustling russet canopy. Azure, the robin, noted for her vibrant russet chest, was the first to bid farewell. Her sweet and melancholy song echoed through the stillness, an endearment of goodbyes before the tree she called home became awash with icy crystals. Azure promised to return, bringing brighter songs back on rosier winds, her departure a mere adieu to a beloved friend. Beatrice, the bushy-tailed squirrel with perky ears, scurried to and fro, burying her treasures deep in the soil. She promised as well, her high-pitched chatter filling the vibrant morning with a promise of return, her tiny, twinkling eyes mirroring the promise of next year's bloom. Lastly, there was Sam, the wise old snail, sluggish yet patient. Every inch he traversed was a testament to his timeless wisdom and acceptance of change. Sam, too, promised Milly his return, courageously braving the frost as he descended into the comfort of the ground. A solitary sigh and the forest fell silent, save for the gentle rustle of the wind stirring the remaining leaves, now brittle, desolate remnants of a vibrant season. Bereft of her forest friends, Milly was alone again, the sole keeper of the forest embracing the winter chill. But even in her solitude, there was a soft, comforting glow about her spirit. Milly found solace in the quiet stillness of the towering pine beside her rustic cottage. This remarkable companion was more than just a tree. It was Milly's quiet strength, the stoic sentinel of wisdom and enduring love, a steadfast beacon that resonated her every emotion. Caressing the rough bark of the pine, she noticed every groove, every line, and every scar etched into its surface, a living map of countless seasons come and gone. She thought of the stories the pine held. Cherished tales of the long summer days, joyous autumn evenings, and the gentle hush of winter's slumber. There was a comforting familiarity in her companion's presence, a certainty only time can forge. Milly gently pressed her ear against the rough bark, as though trying to decipher the tree's secret tales whispered in the soft gush of the wind. She envisioned the echoes of Azure, Beatrice, and Sam swirling in the heartwood, nestled in the lull of the pine's muffled whispers. In her mind's eye, she saw the sprightly dance of the spring flowers under the shadow of her pine, and the transience of summer's golden radiance, slowly fading into an orchestra of autumn hues, a poetic canvas of crimson and golden melodies. Her breath hitched as these images fluttered in her mind, bringing a solitary tear that glistened on her cheek, reflecting the pale winter sun. Yet it was a tear of joy, an acknowledgement of the comforting cyclicity of existence. a sweet sadness as she mourned the fall, yet eagerly awaited the spring rejuvenation while recherishing her cherished memories, one season at a time. Each leaf fallen was a song sung, each bare branch a verse penned in the forest's grand symphony. Millie's lonesome solitaire was her cascade of emotions translated into enduring love for her forest, an enigmatic bond nurtured by golden afternoons and quiet moonlit nights. In the serenity of the forest, as the first silver snowflakes began to fall, weaving an enchanting tapestry of white and grey, Millie gently shut the door to her cottage. As the embers in the hearth warmed her home, she felt the tranquility of the winter wrap around her like a nurturing blanket. With every falling snowflake, Millie felt closer to her great evergreen, her friend in solitude, and every memory carried in its solemn heartwood. For in the hush of winter, she found tranquility, and in her solitude, a cherished companionship that transcended the confines of seasons as she eagerly awaited the return of her forest friends. And so, the forest quietly embraced the winter, the song of the autumn leaves forever hummed in its heart, echoing the cycles of change, the promise of rebirth and a reiterated promise of encounters to come. Winter had wrapped its gentle arms around the world, quietly, meticulously transforming the landscape from fiery autumn hues to a tranquil blanket of snow. Each leaf, each branch, each invisible cobweb, all were dusted in a fine coat of icy sparkle, glittering in the soft light of the pale winter sun. Millie stepped out into the mirrored landscape, her boots crunching softly on the fresh snow. The world was hushed, the silken quiet of winter muffling the usual sounds of life to a distant whisper. Traces of her breath curled in the frosty air, a smoky imprint on the frigid canvas of winter's artwork, before softly disappearing into the chilled surroundings. She walked across the whipped cream yard and towards her age-old friend, the maple tree. Quietly, respectfully, she treaded on the snow-dappled path to its trunk, each careful step imprinting her fleeting existence on the unmarred surface. The tree stood grand and quiet, its bare branches casting intricate lace patterns on the snow underneath. It seemed as if it was dreaming about the sweet lullaby of wind rustling through its leaves, and the way each season added a new layer to its ever-growing chronicle. Memories of autumn flooded back to Millie. She remembered the first day she'd seen the maple's leaves begin to glow in shades of fire and gold, the song of the leaves serenading the world with their symphony of change, and the way magic had found its way into her life. Finding her quaint wooden swing draped in a snowy shawl, she dusted off the pristine frost and settled down, her gaze still fixed on the elegant creature of nature that had been a backdrop to her story. Winter, the grand artist, had paused its brush on the concrete slab of time, allowing Millie to savor the stillness and soak in the tranquility. A world clothed in snow, where each sound softly echoed in the white silence, was a masterpiece crafted for moments of reflection. She absently watched as a snowflake fluttered down, pirouetting in the still air before alighting on her glove-covered hand. The exquisite crystal design, as intricate as nature's own poetry, held her mesmerized, once again reminding her of the magic in the ordinary. Her heart was full, brimming with love and gratitude for the seasons that had passed, and for the lessons she learned from the steadfast maple tree. It had taught her the beauty of change, the rhythm of life, filled with ebbs and flows, and how resilience lies in accepting these alterations with grace and humility. As the silence wrapped her in its comforting layers, she realized her journey with the maple was not meant to halt with the arrival of winter, curtained under frozen veils of time. The bare branches, etching calligraphy on the pristine snow, were reminders that winter was a pause, not an end. Embroidered in her heart were the fragments of every sweet melody that the maple's rustling leaves had composed. The music would continue to echo in her memory, playing in sync with the rhythm of her heartbeat. Every rustle was a story, a memory etched in time, a connection strengthened with every changing season. Millie allowed a smile to bloom on her lips, the smile reaching her eyes which sparkled with the reflection of the snowy landscape. She was content, filled with peace and acceptance. The realization that she could carry the magic of her maple tree within her heart, no matter the season, filled her with a profound sense of joy. She knew that their story was resilient, tied to something far stronger and eternal than the changing seasons. And there, amidst the hypnotic silence of the winter, she allowed herself to dream of spring's vibrant new leaves gracing the maple, summer's gentle afternoon light dappled through the green canopy, autumn's grand symphony of colors setting the world alight, and the seasoned wisdom the tree carried in its heartwood, whispering tales to all who'd listen. Yes, winter had made its grand entrance, but her tree, her cherished companion, remained unaltered. The snow delicately lacing its network of branches was only a new garment, adorning the constant presence in her life, the resilient maple tree, which silently promised that it would stay, outlasting all the seasons. With that warming thought, under the watchful eye of her stately friend, and cradled in the serenity of the winter landscape, Milly gently pushed herself on the swing. Back and forth she swayed, just as the swing of seasons, leaving behind only the echo of her laughter and the memory of her story under the tranquil, snowy sky.